You don't ordinarily think of Berlin as a water city. It's 180 kilometres from the nearest sea. Yet the city is defined by its waterways. That's partly because Berlin is built on low-lying marshy land. And that's why there's a network of pink pipes to pump groundwater away from the buildings so the foundations don't flood. Berlin has 2 large rivers, as well as more canals than any other city in the world. The government buildings in the heart of Berlin form a ribbon across the River Spree, symbolically connecting east and west.
Of around 900 journalists who report on federal politics as their main profession.
The most famous is, of course, the Reichstag, the home of the German Parliament, or Bundestag. Although it wasn't used by the Nazis, in 1945 the Reichstag was a primary target of the Red Army due to its perceived propaganda value. It remained a ruin for a long time, but in the 1990s, after reunification, the building was restored and redesigned with an impressive glass dome directly above the plenary chamber. The dome receives around 3 million visitors each year. So if you do come to Berlin, here's a tip. If you want to go to the Reichstag, to go up into the dome, you really should book online, and book online well in advance. You can get tickets on the day, but there's a queue and it takes a while and there's no guarantee what time you get in. And the other thing is, if you find yourself in the queue, make sure you've got your identity documents like a passport, because you will need that in order to get a ticket. It's over 80 years since the war, but you can still see evidence from it, such as the shell of the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church, destroyed in a 1943 air raid. Elsewhere is an open-air monument called the Topography of Terror, which charts how in the 1930s the Nazis were able to destroy German democracy, corrupting institutions one by one.
In Berlin, wie in anderen Universitätsstädten Deutschlands, wurden undeutsche und unsittliche Bücher von den Studenten eingesammelt und öffentlich verbrannt.
We've all seen those terrifying videos of the Nazi book burning, the black and white images of the bonfire of books. What I never realised is that actually took place right here, outside, in the square outside Humboldt University. So the people who started the book burning were Nazi students who had raided the university's library to take out all the books of the undesirables to set fire to them. Pretty creepy, almost like Florida today. At the centre of the Bebelplatz, the square where the book burning took place, there's a memorial called the Empty Library, with a view below of a group of empty bookcases large enough to hold all 20,000 burned books. The plaque beside it has quotes from an 1820 German play, This is but a prelude. Where they burn books, they ultimately burn people. 70 years after the book burning, the city of Berlin built the Holocaust Memorial. 6 million lives. This monument has no words. That's why it has such emotional power. The Nazi legacy left Berlin not only in complete ruin, but also with another trauma. Half controlled by communist Russia, and the other half by the Western democracies. At the height of the Cold War, the communists erected a wall to prevent people from leaving their side of Berlin and cross to the west.
Freedom has many difficulties, and democracy is not perfect. But we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in.
The wall was much hated. It separated families within the same city. The wall stood for 28 years until 1989, when communism collapsed.
The Berlin Wall came down, and Germany was eventually reunified.
Today, Checkpoint Charlie, the most famous Cold War crossing point, is a tourist attraction. And almost all 155 kilometres of the wall have been torn down, except for in a very few places. The trauma is still fresh. More than 140 people were shot or killed trying to cross to freedom, and so many of them were very young, just hoping for a better future. A museum has been built next to one of the remaining sections of the wall. It's full of personal stories of heartbreak and trauma. Still standing on the eastern side is a section of the wall that wasn't torn down. Instead, artists from all over the world were invited to leave their statement. No one wants to take this part of the wall down, at least not for a while longer.
On the left bank, in the Nikolai Viertel, the charm of old Berlin is visible, and it can be historically accurate to say, here, Berlin began about 800 years ago.
Despite, or maybe in spite, of the traumas of the last century, Berlin has regenerated itself. It's once again become a vibrant and dynamic city. And once again, Berlin can rightfully claim to be one of the great cities of Europe.